This is Cruise Radio.
I cruise a lot, and I always sail with travel insurance. You should too. Get a free quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Here we go.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. This is Cruise Radio.
Craig Zabransky just returned from a 7-night cruise on Princess Cruises Caribbean Princess out of Port Everglades, which is the port for Fort Lauderdale. And he joins us on the line. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Doug. It's great to talk to you again. It's great to talk cruising, as always. You know I love it out there on the water.
Yeah, for sure. It was good seeing you, too, at Kenny Chesney a couple of weeks ago.
It was indeed. Great show. First time seeing Kenny. I mean, really puts it together. I love Zach Brown Band, too, for me. But Kenny, really solid tailgate, solid show, no doubt.
You live down there in the Keys. Did you ever get a chance to catch Buffett in one of his Keys concerts?
I never saw him in the Keys. I did see him in Miami, though. Yeah. So South Florida, check.
Awesome.
Last time he was down around there, they had a couple Keys concerts, in his final year there.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know it was the final year, of course. But they were so pricey and expensive. And I was trying to go through a connection that I had, and it turned up that it didn't work out. But tickets were like $1,000 to like stand on the lawn somewhere. I mean,
Yikes.
it was expensive to go see him down there. Now it proves that, hey, maybe it was worth it, looking back. But I'm just glad I had an opportunity to see him in South Florida. It was an amazing show, actually. I loved it.
Absolutely. Now, let's get some pre-cruise thoughts here. This was a 7-night out of Fort Lauderdale. You're down in the Keys. What made you want to take this 7-nighter?
Yeah, well, it worked with spring break. It was a perfect spring break trip here for when, my son's out of school. So that was great. And also it coincided with my dad's birthday. He was turning 80. So it just seemed to be like we'd had to do something that week. And, it was a big milestone birthday. And we were just putting it off for a while because my dad's recovering from a little surgery knee. So we didn't plan it super in advance. So during the spring break season, hard to get like the best rooms on ships. Mm-hmm. But we were happy with what we got and we were glad to get on. And it was just fun to celebrate in a different way to mark this milestone.
Absolutely. So you go to board Caribbean Princess. Of course, they have what they call Ocean Ready, where you do everything in advance. They mail the medallion to you and all that. Were you Ocean Ready when you boarded?
I was Ocean Ready. I didn't get the medallion mailed to me because it was kind of late in the process. And my parents were separate reservation and they didn't do it. So I didn't want to be in a different line or different setup. We had to go all through together. So I didn't get it mailed to me, but we were checked. I don't know if it was green line or blue line, but we were good to go.
All right.
And we got right up there, and it was really a quick check-in and get on process. We did not have to wait long at all.
How long would you say it took you from curb to ship?
Curb was interesting because I had to go park the car.
Mm-hmm.
So we dropped in a car there. So that was probably finding a spot. Actually, probably took me longer to find a spot and get back to them than we did to get through. I would say we're almost on the ship in under a half hour.
All right. And you make your way on board Caribbean Princess. Have you sailed this one before?
I haven't, but I did a similar ship. So I was very familiar with the layout, which I think is first time for me that I've been on a similar class ship where, restaurants and activities are kind of in the same spot. So you kind of, after one day, you remember everything sort of from the trip before. So that was great. But this is my first time on this particular ship.
So what were your impressions this time around as you walked on board and kind of checked out the piazza and everything?
I mean, I always love the piazza in the middle. I always think they're small. I'm like, man, there's so many people filing in that first minute, but during the whole cruise ship, I mean, it was never superly overcrowded because there's people spread out pretty well. But the piazza was a little crowded. You got to get in your elevator and try to find your room and do all that. And we were potentially looking for an upgrade too. So I took care of a lot of getting the baggage and carry-ons to the room. And then we came back, to get cocktails and just to see if potentially we would be upgraded because it was my dad's birthday. But our rooms were actually nice. I mean, they had a mini suite and we had just a regular balcony room. So, but both worked out. I mean, I'm not going to complain about that at all.
So you didn't get that upgrade?
No, I mean, we're looking for it. I mean, they offer a lot of times you get emails bid on upgrades and do upgrades. And my dad, he's really good. He's got this magic power sometimes, just to get things and smooth talk people. I wish I was, some of it passed on genetically a little bit more to me. Maybe sometimes I have his mojo, but he really is good. But I mean, it was a little tired and stuff like that. And the ship was completely booked. As you know, sometimes maybe there's a snowstorm in Iowa and people don't get out and stuff like that. So we were definitely searching in those cases. It didn't pan out for that, but it was okay. I mean, the rooms that we had were, I was not, disappointed with my room at all.
Well, let's talk about your room there. So, like, as far as you said, you weren't disappointed, but how was it? As far as was it well appointed? The bathroom, the space for the family. How did all that play out?
It was interesting when I first walked in the room. So there's three of us. So we walk in, and I'm like, well, there's two beds, and they're pushed apart. And I'm like, well, we need them together. Like, what's going on? Like, how are we going to make this work? I had no idea. Novice cruiser alert here. I had no idea that like it comes out from the ceiling. I didn't even look up. How are we going to do this? Because in the past, we were spoiled with a mini suite and the bed pulls out of the bed and it's kind of like more of a separate area. But in this case, it wasn't. And one of the things I liked about it, even though the room was shorter, it was the fact that the other bed was up and it wasn't in the way. So in the morning, it was very easy for me to get a coffee, come back, sit on the balcony, or during the day, I didn't have to get through anything where a lot of times if the bed is still not put back together in the couch, like it kind of gets in the way and you have to sneak around it. So that actually I thought was a major plus because I spent a lot of mornings. I like to have a cup of coffee out there in the morning. You have the balcony. It's one of my favorite things is sit out there, whether it's a cocktail, coffee, and get out in the room. The balcony was spacious enough. So that was great. The room, they're always tight. The one thing I'd recommend on this ship or be cognizant of is the fact that the outlet situation is a crisis. We're used to charging so many things. If you have three phones, it was tough to find three little outlets. I would have brought some kind of extension cord or extra power pack or something along those lines because we had to like focus on managing that all our phones were consistently charged, to stay connected in this world that we live in today.
Were there USB plugs in there, just not USB-Cs, or were there just a couple of plugs, just regular plugs?
Just a couple of regular plugs. I didn't see any USBs. Yeah,
okay.
I didn't see that technology at all. And there was plugs. I mean, at one point I had I think something was blocking something. I had to unplug something. I don't know if I unplugged the TV once or something. I mean, I don't remember what exactly the detail, but yeah, it was a very limited plug situation. And I think if you bring an extension with a couple, like maybe one of those power cords, I don't know if that's even legal. I have no idea. But I would bring one of those just to have a few things plugged in. Because if people bring laptops and other things, we had three phones. We were on vacation. I wasn't doing much. But it's your camera too, right? Mm-hmm. So it's the way to communicate, through the app on the ship to find out where my sons are, where my parents are. So you could say that you could just talk to them through the app, but also like see where they are and just go find them. So you are using your phone. So it was, we definitely had to keep them charged.
With the balcony stateroom you had, this class of ship, there's I don't want to call it a walk-in closet, but there's like a little space to hang clothes that you actually can kind of shimmy into, right?
Yeah, I had a little bit of space in there. Sure. Mm-hmm. So you can hang clothes behind the wall. There was, a whole open space. There's a couple of little drawers, like with the safe, like against the wall, I guess cubby hole style, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's the bathroom. I mean, the bathroom is tiny, it's small, but you don't spend a lot of time in there. Yeah. So it's okay. You take a shower, you move on.
Right.
Like I don't need the big spacious bathroom, especially on a 7-day. If you're going to be cruising around the world, different story. Mm-hmm. You might want that little bit more of luxury in there. But for 7 nights, you're fine with that kind of bathroom.
What deck number were you on? Do you remember?
Dolphin.
And was there any noise as far as left or right or top to bottom of you?
No, I mean, I think I was Dolphin 419, if I recall correctly. Yeah. And I didn't feel any noise. I didn't feel any shimmy. I didn't feel any shake. I felt like, it was very comfortable. One of the last nights we had, I guess, a little bit of rough seas. When you start to take everything out of the closet and you only have the hangers.
Oh, gosh.
I always remember that on any ship. Sometimes they move a little bit and you're like, why didn't I hear that on any other night? But I feel like, because your suitcase is gone. There's nothing in the closet. So the hangers roll by themselves.
Yeah.
So I did hear that, but that made me laugh. I'm like, oh, it's, this is our last night.
Princess's buffet area is called the Horizon Court, I believe. How was the buffet during the 7-night cruise?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a buffet guy. I don't head to there often. I mean, did I use the buffet? Yeah, once or twice. And it was sufficient. It was like other cruise ships. I mean, it was, I don't want to say fine or adequate. That seems fine. It was good at times, but I don't particularly use the buffet. I mean, I like main room dining. Like I try to find that for breakfast and especially for dinner. Lunch you could have, elsewhere around the ship. Sometimes I went to the buffet, but very, very rarely. Like for breakfast, a lot of times I'd head to their International Cafe, which is in the Piazza, which is like a little coffee shop with a lot of foods that's available there that they make, like little sandwiches and things like that. And that was the best. I mean, I love that place. I was there every day, getting an Americano and maybe picking up a few things, whether it be like an egg quiche or a little sandwich or a ham and cheese on a croissant. I mean, they really do a great job there. That was a go-to. And I think the last time I was on the Sun Princess or the Island Princess, sorry, Sun. I guess I'm brainwashed with that. Yes, they do talk about it a bit. But I remember the coffee machine went down. And I was like, oh, man, they are just producing a lot of coffees. But this time it was constantly open. And it was, that was like my breakfast go-to. A lot of times I'd get that coffee because it tastes so much better than the stuff they'll bring to your room. Yeah. It really does. Like, it's fresh, it's made. It'd be worth the trip. And then I'd go have it on my balcony and bring a little bit of food back to the room. Did
you use the Ocean Ready or the Ocean Medallion to order any food or coffee during your voyage or drinks?
Yeah, I did. But really, my son loved it. He needed access and he loved the soups and stuff like that. So if we went to like my parents' room for a little bit, celebrate something, just have a drink before dinner kind of in their room. Like next thing you know, like there'd be a knock at the door and soup would be coming in,
Nice.
So he loved that app, get chips here, do that stuff there. He was always ordering it wherever he was. So he really got a lot out of that.
How about the main dining room? What time dining did you have, and what did you think of it throughout the week?
We made, I guess because we booked late, it was a challenge. And the first day was really tough and to get in anywhere, and it was just different. And we were used to, I think on the last ship, my parents had like some sort of suite with an upgrade where they had a little special menu, a little area where they were able to get in more or less whenever they want. I forget what that's called. We didn't have it this time around because of our, level of room type. And so we were just like with the main room dining, it was really tough to find reservations. Either you had to go super early or super late because a lot of it was already booked and filled up. And I guess, we didn't do a lot of that stuff in advance. The first night was a real challenge and eye-opening. Sometimes you're like, man, they should have this down. But I understand. Everyone wants to eat first night at the same time. You're on the ship, so it's a tough first night. I almost recommend maybe it's to get the reservations at one of the specialty restaurants on a first night. I might do that if I would go back just to or do better with my reservations to try to figure out a good time to eat. But we did struggle with a little bit of it there. Eventually we settled in. They have a room, the Palm Dining, which I think is on deck 5 or 6, if I recall. I think it's 6, but you have to go to an elevator. It's a little different to get to. But it's up there, and you could eat a little bit. It's in the back of the ship, actually, and you eat there, and it's less crowded. It's like a secret dining room, I think, that less people know about.
Like a speakeasy back there, it sounds like.
I mean, it almost, it kind of, it felt like it a little bit because it was always opportunity. It's where they had tea, too. They had high tea back there or afternoon tea that we did one day, which is always a pleasure to do.
As far as the food and the quality, the service throughout your minus little hurdle you had there with actually being able to get sat, food service, how was that for your through your voyage?
The service is great, actually. They really care and they really put a lot of effort in. I really have 5 stars awards for a lot of the people that served me throughout the entire ship, and I just thought that was always a solid, for sure. And the quality of the food was, was good. It was always good. Like sometimes some meals not great, like you're okay, but some were really great. The steak place I was super impressed with. That's where we went for my dad's birthday. I mean, my dad's birthday, we were for dinner was we had a big lunch in San Juan. So that was our stop, and that's what he wanted. So we made an event out of that. That was his actual birthday. But the next day we celebrated it on the ship. And we went to the steak place, and it was really good. I mean, most people are like, man, this is great. And they were super nice to serve. It was like even like well above even the main room dining. Like obviously the quality of food, everything was really super well done. I can't recommend that place, Crown Grill.
Yeah.
Enough.
Yeah, they have one of the best steakhouses at sea, in my opinion. Princess does. How about any other food around the ship, like maybe Sabatini's, Alfredo's, anything like that?
They had these new thing, and maybe they're coming around, but I don't remember them. But they had like a barbecue, and then
planks.
One night they had seafood, and then they had seafood, and I guess they alternated, and that was up in where the buffet was.
Yeah,
and I guess it's like not a full specialty restaurant, but I don't know, like it's a specialty restaurant, but it's like half or something. It's not as fancy, I guess. And we ate up there with the seafood one on our last night. And I was super impressed with that. The service level was there, was excellent. And the food was really good. It was all seafood based. And there's, limited options from a menu from like a steak place. It's just, there was a couple of options, but it was really well done. And I was full, it was like, wow, I can't believe, you kind of don't always want to eat so much, but that last one, I was like, man, I'm full. I ate a lot today.
So I haven't done that before on Princess, but I'm kind of the way you're talking about it, thinking it might be. Remember how Canaletto is on Holland America, where it's like a partition? Okay,
exactly something like that. Where we went to Canaletto on Holland. Yeah, it was a very similar concept, and it was well done. So the whole restaurant turns over. You have to make reservations too, so you make them. And the booking that we had the opportunity to dine at one of those, like as part of our booking, or I think it was two even, but we only hit one. And they would alternate nights. So, Planks would be closed the night that we went. So we went for seafood.
Okay.
And that's just,
Awesome. How about the entertainment? How did that stack up on your 7-nighter?
And the entertainment I find in Princess is good. I mean, the shows are relatively shorter. I've been in other theaters for a longer period of time. And I think, they run the shows good. I mean, their basic show with the singing and dancing, through a lot. And they even had this opera singer come on, and she was incredible. I mean, that show was a similar show. I think it might be the Princess show, because it was very similar to the show I saw on the other ship about a year ago. But I mean, it was well worth going again. It was really moving, emotional, and it's just really well played. And I thought that show was great. The other shows were good. What I would say, don't sleep on the comedians. A lot of times they're in like an obscure bar and a smaller audience. And I'm always like, man, should I go? But this time made an effort to make sure I hit one of the comedians. And he was relatively clean. Mm-hmm. And I think that was in the brochure, or not the brochure.
The Princess Patter?
The Patter. Thank you. And it was in there. And I'm like, I want to check this guy out. I'm so glad I did. I was laughing hysterical. So it was really well done. And I was like, man, this guy is funny. And it was just kind of fun to laugh. It really gives you an opportunity to let go of them even more. I've been on ships, grander ships with probably, some better shows, but I went to the shows and I enjoyed them. I made sure when the Patter came out, I circled the timing to catch a show or two. That's for sure.
I know you're a big karaoke fan. Did you hit up any on this sailing?
I don't know if I call myself a big fan. I mean, I'm a big fan of listening to other people. I didn't. I did go to many of the bars, though, that had other singers. Mm-hmm. They have a few singers. They have a little piano guy. It's outside the piazza. And then they had the wheelhouse, which you'll have little singers and groups and stuff. So it was really fun to catch a lot of live music. That's something that I really love to do. And it varied too. So different songs from different places. So it was really great.
Did you gravitate towards one bar? Like for me on Princess, it's always going to Crooners. I love that little area. Did you have like one watering hole for your voyage you always kind of return to?
Crooners is a good spot. I've been there many times. They make the martini and they'll do it and they pour it right. And I've spent a lot of time at Crooners. It's close to the casino too. So when you have too many, you're like, you know what? I feel lucky.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed that bar, and that's probably the bar I hit the most, actually.
Yeah,
because it's right there too, and they have the pianos there, so that's fun. And before the show, they have that bar down below. I forget what it's called, but it's like a little tavern, and it's like smoking still. Mm-hmm. So every time before a show, I'd hop in there and get a couple drinks for us in our row. So I hit that bar for, a couple of times, but not as much as Crooners.
How was it as far as the smoke situation in and around the casino?
The smoking, you can smell it a little bit. There's definitely that element of it. So it hits you. And I think by the end, I didn't notice it as much, but day one, it was kind of there. Maybe when it's action is there too. If you walk through it when it's kind of quiet, I think you get more of the odor. I don't know why. Maybe when there's action going on, smell isn't as important as all the other senses, perhaps.
Right.
And they get away on it. But yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a little bit of it, but it wasn't overbearing. I definitely spent some time on the roulette table. Always loved to go there. I actually found myself up a couple bucks by the end of the trip.
Okay.
But I could not say the same from everyone else in my group. So overall, net probably down. But I was a winner. Not much. I just had a lot of fun there. Spending a lot of time. And I always like to meet people there too. People come in and there are always so many different styles of betting and how often they come. And then, and when you're doing well, like, the people on Princess are unique. You'll say hello to them again in the hallways and later on.
Yeah,
for sure. That's almost like a friendly vibe on any Princess ship that I've been on. I really noticed it on Princess, and this ship was definitely clear element of that too.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Like when the casino, when the buffaloes start running on those machines, those slot machines, you hear buffalo and they start shaking and you're like, smoking is second nature. You're like, what smoke? Because you're like, everyone's on fire, right? Sensory overload.
I never really thought about it until you asked it, and that came up today, but it's definitely true.
Yeah.
You walk through that in the middle of the day and there's no one in there. I was like, oh, I can smell the smoke. But I didn't notice a lot of people smoking. Like I didn't see that except for that one bar that we talked about earlier, which the name escapes me right now, but it's right below the theater, basically.
As far as sea days, how were they with crowds and congestion?
I didn't find them overbearing at all. And we did have a little rain one of the sea days. One of the things I really liked about this itinerary was that we had 2 sea days in a row, on a short cruise. So we went like Princess K, sea day, and then, San Juan, and then St. Thomas, and then sea day back. And I really think that the sea day in the back kind of was a nice way to end a cruise. I guess I've been on that before, probably on other ships, but it was just, it stuck out to me as memorable. Yes. And I didn't think the sea days were overbearing. They have the Voice, and they do a lot about that, or they do the, they do that one game show with where you pick the dollar amount.
Oh, Deal or
Who Wants to Be a Million? Yeah.
Deal or No Deal, maybe?
No Deal or No Deal.
Yeah.
So they definitely had that going on, and those times would be super crowded in certain sections. You had to like reserve in advance. But I found the sea days to be really spread out, and I went different places. Like I didn't have I'm going to this, this lounge chair every day and putting my towel down, Like that wasn't my style. But a lot of the lounge chairs the last 2 sea days were kind of open because we had a little drizzle and a stop and, but the sun came out for a lot of the ship. I think they really did a great job navigating the way back to avoid a lot of the storms because you could see them on the horizon, but we had sun most of the way. So that was really cool.
Any sea day art auctions?
The sea day art auctions are always great. I mean, you got to go in there, you got to get your glass of bubbly, and you got to see what Peter Max is going for these days.
And Thomas Kincaid and
some of the favorites. After a while, I discovered I got to walk through the art gallery there, which is kind of in a unique spot. They had them up on the walls, and I finally found where it was and how when I went back and forth between my room and visiting my parents from a different spot, I could walk through it, off the piazza. So I always get to see a couple of those paintings. One of these days, I'm going to take one of those home.
I thought you were going to tell me that you now have a Peter Max Statue of Liberty behind the couch or something.
He'd look good in my office. Peter Max. A little colorful. Yeah. Statue of Liberty, patriotic, Mexican flavors. I like it.
You were mentioning a couple of minutes ago that your son was playing basketball. Does he get involved with the kids program on board? And if so, what were his thoughts of it?
Well, originally he wasn't involved and wasn't interested. He was 13, so he's right at the go to the teenage club versus like the younger club. So he's at that transition. But towards the end, especially when it rained a little bit and the basketball court was unusable, let me sign him up the last 2 CDs, make sure he gets in there. And then he kind of spent a lot of time in there and met some really cool kids. And I think that's the big takeaway. He didn't always love the games, but they had, air hockey in there and they had stuff with I guess PS4 or maybe PS5. I don't know exactly which games he was playing, but basketball on the video game too. So he definitely got into the clubs a little bit and used it. They have some interesting stuff, man. Like they had a class he didn't take these, but make mocktails. They had another class that would be hit the activities, go to the jacuzzi, learn how to play blackjack. And you're like, man, they're training these kids to be us. So it was really interesting to see what was there on the curriculum for some of these kids. And you know what else I saw too was he played basketball from the very beginning, and he played against a lot of older kids, which is great for his development. But also I saw a lot of those older kids in packs together around the ship. And then eventually he went around with a couple of friends too. So that's what I think the club really enabled a lot of the kids to do is to because it was spring break. For a lot of places. So I think kids had the week off. So there was a substantial amount of kids on there.
Let's talk about your ports of call on this 7-night cruise. We'll do here is we'll just kind of bang through these. Give us the port of call. Give us your highlight, then move to the next one.
Princess K, the island. My highlight would be staying towards the end, getting a couple extra drinks to know that we might have to wait, but then also spending the time when the line was there playing Frisbee in the water because the beach was empty. Next one was San Juan. walking in Old San Juan and taking my dad out for his 80th birthday, followed up by a food tour. As you know, I'm a big fan of food tours. I did the food tour, historic walk through Old San Juan. Because what was nice about San Juan is that we docked around 12 to get off, and we left at 10. Nice. So we had the evening. Mm-hmm. So it was good to see the city in the evening start to really come alive. At the end of our food tour, we hung out for another cocktail, stuff like that. It was nice to be in a city. For me, as you know, I live in the Keys. Well, for the audience too. Like, I don't live in towns, so it's fun. Cities are fun for me. The last one was St. Thomas. And I took a boat over to St. John's to walk in a national park.
Yeah.
Get more time to swim in a beach and just relax and learn a little bit about the nature aspects of St. John. The hike was really cool. Swimming in the water was like a snorkeling expedition. There was so much there off the beach, which was amazing. But maybe the highlight was the entertainment of just the guide on the boat, the ferry, going back and forth. He was awesome. He was hilarious. He had great stories, and they had beers. Just to say quick about Princess K, is what I was impressed with is if you had a drink package, and maybe all the islands do this, like the drinks on the island were just off the package. So that was great, so it's like, I probably drank the most that day. Like, if you want to get your, drinking package value or however you play. But I was like, that was really cool. I was afraid they'd be like charging you for the beers on the beach because you weren't on the ship. I don't know. Maybe that's constant through all the ships. But I don't think when I was on other ships, like in Harvest K and other places, I thought I always had to pick that up, but maybe not. I don't recall.
Now, I have to ask, because when you did that food tour in San Juan, did you drop any Florida Keys food tours?
No, I didn't drop anything. I made sure I didn't even wear my hat.
Okay.
Like, I didn't want to talk about it. I was just a complete tourist. At the very end, Maggie mentioned it, and we talked a little bit about it at the end, but that was it. I was like, you know what? I'm just a tourist in this one. Because I've taken one in West Palm through a friend, and she actually told the guide who I was. So then there was like a story, the whole tour. And I was like, I don't want that.
Yeah, but it's good to shoehorn that in sometimes, right?
You need to market yourself, right? Yeah. I mean, you have to talk about what you do. So if anyone comes down to Florida Keys, can I give my 30-second spot?
Yeah, go ahead. We'll do that at the end there.
Anyway, especially, you're taking cruises down in Miami or South Florida. You come down to the Keys before or after. I'm in the Upper Keys. I'm in Almirada. It's a great way to understand the island, the food, the cuisine, the history, and really get a taste of the Florida Keys in a true way, just for a few hours walking or on golf carts, etc. I mean, it's a great way to understand the Florida Keys food tour.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've done it twice. So went to the brewery, had the coconut shrimp and the key lime pie and all the staple. Yeah, really cool there. Did that trip over to St. John over from St. Thomas, that Kenny Chesney concert, inspire you at all, or was that already on the books?
It was funny because he was talking about a guy. And he was like really helpful to the island, and he was saying all this stuff. And then it dawned on me, like, before he mentioned the name, I was like, oh my God, it's probably Kenny Chesney. I'm going to see him in a couple of weeks, Yeah. And he's like, yeah, Kenny Chesney and all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. I'm going to see him. I mean, I listen, I'm a Sirius XM radio subscriber. So I have 59 on one of my, presets. Mm-hmm. So I go to his channel a bit, and it's been fun to listen to all of it, like his music, but also, that kind of no shoes, trop rock, if I could use that term, radio, and that kind of vibe. So, and he brings it a little different than Buffett. I have them both on my presets, but it was great to see him. But it was great. It was a fun little add-on. I'm like, wow, I'm on St. John's. Maybe I'll see him.
I know that he lives like right above like Trunk Bay up in the mountains right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty cool stuff there. So you make your way back to Port Everglades. How was your debark process on board?
Well, debark is always chaotic. I think in some ways, I mean, we didn't have any extra special, things, but it was actually fine because they give you a time. And it was like 8 or 8:30 or something. So you waited in a little dining room and then you walk right off. I mean, I guess the hardest part was connecting and being around to just connect with my parents, who were also on the ship, so we could all go together. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that was a challenge, though, getting back to the car. So, this is the second time this happened to me in Port Everglades. You take one ship, you leave at dock 2, and then you come in at 21. And you're like, my car is at 20, at 2. So I have to get on a thing and figure out how to get the car and then come all the way back and stuff like that, because you don't want to take all the suitcases or 5 people, everyone get on the bus. Stuff like that, or should you, or how do you do it? So you have to figure all that out. And the way that I did that is just tip a guy who had one of those big, those hand carts, stuffed all the suitcases on, got us to everywhere that we need to go, and just thanked him, with some money. And sometimes you got to be American with your problems and just pay and get it done. That was a great aspect of it. But then getting back over there on the bus and everything, because we're all tired and stuff like that. And my dad's still recovering from knee surgery, so we did have a part-time wheelchair for him, but didn't always use it. He didn't need it, but it was there for extra long voyages, so.
Did you get to see any good meltdowns during debark?
Not entirely. No. I didn't get to see any people running for the ship either, which was, I had the balcony. I sit out there. You want to see it happen.
Any first-time tips to offer someone?
Definitely bring some sort of, for outlets, just for a couple extras, especially if you're really connected or have laptops or whatever you're doing. That's key for the connections. I think the other thing is dinner. Make sure that you set it up right. I'm not a big fan of making reservations or trying to even do my excursions before I get on the ship. You want to see how you feel. And we had people it was a multi-generational trip too. So not everyone's going to go everywhere, and how you feeling that day and stuff or before. So I don't like to book a lot of that stuff so in advance, but I would do something about dinner reservations or try to get one or do something and look that up. And if I couldn't get something on the first day, I might hit the steak place. Why not start out with a home run?
There you go.
That place is solid, the Crown Grill, for sure. And I think they had availability the first night. Because the last time we were on the ship, when we did the similar ship, when I was on the island, Island Princess, I know that's what we did. So we thought about it again, but my dad wanted to go there and celebrate his birthday, and it wasn't his birthday yet. It was actually St. Patrick's Day the first day they were on the ship. So we wanted to do a little bit, see what they had in the main room dining, some sort of corned beef and cabbage, which they didn't have, actually.
Really?
They didn't have it.
Okay.
No.
You'd think they would. They have green beer?
They had green cups.
Okay.
For beer pong upstairs when we were leaving. So I thought, you always have your red Solo cup. Well, St. Patrick's Day, they brought out green Solo cups. It was cool. I took a little photo of it. I took a photo of it, put it on my Instagram for sure. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Because we all wore green too. It was a very green, effort. It was St. Patrick's Day. My mom's Irish, which means I'm Irish, which means my son's Irish. So we had 3 generations of Irish Americans.
Looking back, what was the biggest highlight of this cruise for you and the family?
I think that we made it happen. When I look back, it was like, should we go? Should we not go? We all up for it. My parents and stuff, they were. And then coming back on it, we really enjoyed taking the cruise. And I think it really allowed my parents to we're going to do more, they're 80, they're thinking you slowing down and this, but I'm like, no, you just got your elite status. This is like their 15th princess cruise.
Nice.
Well, I'm like, now's when it counts. Book something, just get your laundry done for the fun of it. You earned it. I mean, you don't have to do the laundry when you get home, pack a clean suitcase, whatever. But I don't know all the other benefits, but I felt like they were thinking maybe we can't do this anymore. And I think coming out of it, they realized that they can and they want to. So that was a real takeaway, is me being their son, be excited for them. And it was just a great, family fun time. What I love about cruises too, and this cruise in particular, is my son will go play basketball. I love that they still had a basketball hoop. He's really into it. So he would go do his thing, and, Maggie and I might do our thing. My parents would do their thing, and then we could all meet on a small ship very easily, and then we all had our moments. Sometimes I would go with my dad somewhere. Maggie went with my mom, or I took Mercer. You had moments like that, and it was very easily to manage, especially with 2 sea days in a row and stuff like that. So I'd play the casino with, my mom or something, and it was a lot of fun. To have those little segues for me, is because everyone is connected through. And that was a real super joy for me on this particular ship. And I think this, to use the cliche, size matters, and I really think that this ship was a little bit smaller, and it's a good ship for that, because you could get around. Everything's not too far, not typically overcrowded, and it's not that big rush and stuff. And it was just a nice size, compared to some of the other ships that I've been on. I really appreciated that. For Princess here. Very
cool. You got to spend your dad's 80th birthday at sea there. That's really cool. I took my dad for Father's Day of 21 on a cruise, the inaugural sailing of Mardi Gras. In hindsight, so glad I did. It was his last cruise. So it's, very cool. You got to spend your 80th with your dad at sea. Don't take that kind of stuff for granted.
No, I certainly do. And it was a real pleasure. And it was tough to, to make sure that he really wanted to go. And it was a joy to see the the excitement and talking about another one.
Yeah.
At some point in the future. So I feel like got him out of a little funk with him slowing down. So it was really fun element there. And I mean, what a cruise to take your dad, huh? That's the Mardi Gras. It's a rebirth, right?
To put a bow on this interview here, your final thoughts of Caribbean Princess.
I think it's a great ship. I mean, I hope people appreciate it because it's cruising as and maybe I'm a Gen Xer or something along those lines, or my generation of what it is. I mean, they still have the photos out, so you could walk by the photo booth. I mean, they still have the photographers running around, and it kind of has elements of the old, of old style cruising that you remember and stuff, like multiple little bars or not such a big ship. And I just feel like it's a good homey type ship. It's not going to be your modern sleek thing, but it really brings you back to more family oriented stuff. And I really think that's something that Princess did really well. I really enjoyed it.
All right. But talking with Craig Zabransky. Craig, push that. What's that website? Is it FL
Keys? So FLKeysFoodTour.com. That's right. FLKeysFoodTour.com.
There we go. Yeah, I'll link that in the show notes too, because having done the tour twice and paid for it both times, I got to say it was a really cool tour there. So I appreciate you coming on and talking about your 7-night sailing on Caribbean Princess. Craig, always a pleasure talking to you and seeing you a couple of weeks ago down in Florida.
Yes, absolutely, Doug. I really appreciate it. Good luck on your next sail. I think you're heading off to something really soon.
Oh, yeah.
Just back from a cruise? Let's talk about it. Email Doug at cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,